opinion, the debate is over. The COVID-19 virus was created in a laboratory in China, and the next step is to look at the links between the COVID-19 virus and the China's biological warfare program as being conducted by the Chinese People's Liberation Army. I think it's clear those who have said that the virus has come from nature have not provided any evidence to demonstrate that it came from nature, while there is an abundant and clear evidence that it came from a laboratory. The COVID-19 virus has anomalies which cannot come from a natural evolutionary process. So we've concluded that it did indeed was a creation in the laboratory, and now we have to determine who made it, how it was made, and where in China among the different laboratories participated in the creation of the COVID-19 virus.
التركيز يتم كثيرا على معهد ووهان لعلم الفيروسات، لكن في الحقيقة أن في هذه المدينة الصينية أكثر من معهد، وقد شرح سلين بعض المواصفات لهذه المختبرات هناك.
Well, I think people are putting too much emphasis on the Wuhan Institute of Virology. There are actually more than one Wuhan Institutes of Virology in Wuhan. The one that is most talked about is a new facility, which is about 12 miles south of the center of Wuhan. And this is where the biosafety level 4 high containment laboratory is. But there's also what we call a P3 level biosafety laboratory in the center of Wuhan. So, that's the first thing. But the Wuhan Institute of Virology is really just one part of a very large program devoted to the development of biological weapons. And this is, as I said, run by the People's Liberation Army. And it was not just the Wuhan Institute of Virology that was engaged in this work. Perhaps it was released from there. We don't know for sure yet. But it was just one part of a much larger program in which other laboratories across China controlled by the People's Liberation Army were participating.
سلين قدم عدة أسباب يمكن من خلالها يقول إن فيروس كورونا الخطير هو عبارة عن حرب بيولوجية، مشيرا إلى أن الصينيين أخفوا أو أتلفوا بعض البيانات المتعلقة بهذا الفيروس.
Well, it's certainly a war against the world from the standpoint that they created this virus. So really, how it was released is in a way irrelevant. Whether it was an accidental release or a deliberate release, we don't know yet. But the intention was to create a bioweapon, and the evidence for a war against the world, a biological war against the world, is fairly clear from the standpoint that they knew this virus was dangerous very early on. They knew it was transmissible between humans, and they didn't tell anyone. They lied about it. From the very beginning, they lied about its origin. They say it originated from a wet market in Wuhan, jumping from animals to humans. And even by last summer, the Chinese Center for Disease Control had to admit that the story about the wet market being the origin was nonsense. So they've hidden data about COVID-19 virus. They've probably destroyed data about the COVID-19 virus. So clearly their intentions were not good.
سلين عدد جملة من الشوائب التي توجد في فيروس كورونا، وقال إنه لا يمكن تفسيرها بأنها عملية طبيعية تطويرية. وأضاف سلين أن آلاف الفيروسات الممكنة التي مرت في وقت سابق لا تحتوي على ما يحتويه كورونا.
Well, there are a number of anomalies in this virus that cannot be explained by a natural evolutionary process. If first of all, it was pre-adapted for human infection, and the Chinese scientists in China know how to do that by using, humanized animal models and doing a procedure called serial passaging. But there were a number of genetically engineered sections of the virus. In particular, there's a small section called the furin cleavage site. Now, that has no business being where it is in this particular virus. Such a structure does not exist in any of the close relatives that from which COVID-19 could have evolved. And I'm talking about, 1,000 different viruses, possible ancestors. So none of them have this in this particular as this particular structure in this particular location. Furthermore, it has long been known that insertion of such a furin cleavage site into a coronavirus will increase its infectivity and increase its lethality. And we also know that scientists in China, some of whom are connected to the People's Liberation Army, demonstrated in 2013 the capability of inserting such a structure into the virus.
أما عن الوثائق التي تحدثت عن مناقشة أن الحرب الثالثة ستخاض بسلاح بيولوجي، فقال لورنس سلين أن الوثائق قد أخفيت أو أتلفت، فكيف إذن يمكن التيقن من حقيقة هذا الأمر وقد قدم بعض هذه الأمثلة؟
I think the documents you speak of, any direct evidence has probably been either hidden or destroyed by now. But what you can do is look at the type of work that all these different Chinese scientists have been doing over the last 10 to 15 years, and all of them point in the direction of how to create, such a coronavirus as we see in COVID-19. And I'll give you one example. There's a publication in 2015, and this publication has to deal with influenza virus, not coronavirus, but it's a similar, respiratory infection. And this particular publication, or the senior author of it is a person we know that is involved in China's biological warfare program. And in this single publication, it demonstrated all the techniques that you would need to create COVID-19. So it's clear from what they were publishing publicly and a lot of the information that we've gathered from Chinese language documents from inside China, and they all point in the direction that this was a laboratory creation.
ربما قد يكون كل ما سبق أمرا أصبح خلف البشرية جمعاء، فيما الأهم بالنسبة للعالم السؤال التالي: هل توقفت المختبرات الصينية عن متابعة العمل؟ الجواب وفق لورنس سلين أن الصينيين يدرسون كيفية مضاعفة قدرة الفيروس على الفتك مجددا.
I think we published a lot of scoops already in terms of proving that this came from a laboratory, and I've mentioned some of them. But you can see that this work is continuing. Just last year, there was a publication by Chinese scientists doing gain of function research on a group of virus called Flaviviridae. Now, as you know, COVID-19, the lethality rate, the death rate is, well under 1%. But these studies that were published last year by Chinese scientists are working with viruses that would have at least, at a minimum, 10 times the death rate of COVID-19. So they're doing gain of function research published just last year, manipulating far more dangerous viruses. So unless we address this problem right now with COVID-19, we may end up with far more dangerous viruses that are far more deadly.